Good evening, everyone. Today we are about to host our day two of the boot camp, which will be focusing mainly upon Model United Nations. Now, I hope most of you have an idea about what Model United Nation is, but even if you don't, no worries. Diplomatia is here to tell you all about what Model United Nations are and how Model United Nations, how you can pursue them, how you can pursue different committees, how you can participate in them, how you can research about them, how you can basically participate in them and speak about it. So today our host will be Anubhav and our panel members, well, Bhavika and Vaishnavi, two of our reputed panel members, will be presenting the session today. Now, MUNs. I want to know what all do you know about MUNs exactly? You can type in chat. What all do you know about MUNs? Are you a beginner or have you been to many MUNs? You can type it in the chat. Okay, Kritagya, you are experienced in MUNs. Nikhil, you have been a silver medalist. That's great. Well, Harshvardhan, no worries. This session is exactly meant for people who have no idea what MUNs are, but are enthusiastic about it, who are excited about the topic and who want to learn about it. So today we have with us our host Anubhav, who is also the founder, or you can say co-founder of Tark Shastra, and he will be presenting and hosting this, moderating this session. Our panel members will be Vaishnavi and Bhavik. So Anubhav, you can go on.
Am I audible, guys? So, the best way to predict the future is to create it. That's a great line written by Peter Drucker. Good evening, everyone. मेरा नाम अनुभव शर्मा है और मैं तर्कशास्त्र का चीफ एडवाइजर हूँ. Welcome to the day 2 of Tarkshastra Ex Diplomacia online bootcamp. Yesterday, we explored the art of debating, and today, we dive into the fascinating world of MUNs. MUN, or Model United Nations, isn't just a competition. It's a platform where you develop skills. Am I audible, guys? I'm confused now.
Yes, Anubhav, you are perfectly audible. Your voice is clear. You can continue.
Okay. It's a platform where you develop skills in diplomacy, negotiation, and leadership. आज के सेशन में हम सीखेंगे कैसे एक कॉन्फिडेंट डेडिकेट बन सकते हैं, how you write resolutions, deliver powerful speeches, and diplomatically address global issues. These skills go beyond the classroom and help you succeed in various fields. Now, to introduce our today's esteemed panelists, each of whom brings a wealth of experience in MUN and international diplomacy. Well, सभी ने सुना ही होगा, कहा जाता है कि दिल्ली दिलवालों की है. एंड इसी दिलवाली दिल्ली से हमारे साथ एक नहीं, दो नहीं, बल्कि तीन तीन पैनलिस्ट जुड़े हैं. First, we have Ms. Bhavika Jain, who has led several MUs as Secretary General and brings a wealth of experience and contribution to grassroots development. Her leadership and organization skills are exemplary. अब हमारे साथ दिल्ली से जुड़ रहे हैं Mr. Saideep Kesri, who has won multiple best delegates in MUNs. His leadership and communication skills are exemplary. और हमारे साथ दिल्ली से ही हैं Ms. Vaishnavi Verma, a passionate advocate for environmental diplomacy. She has represented environmental issues in MUNs and will share how to craft effective resolutions and engage in diplomatic discussions. चलिए अब दिल्ली से थोड़ा हटकर चलते हैं पश्चिम बंगाल की तरफ. और जब हम बंगाल का नाम सुनते हैं, हमारे दिमाग में सबसे पहले आता है नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस का नाम. और उन्हीं की मैजिकल लैंड से अपने मैजिकल स्किल्स के साथ जुड़ी हैं मिस रूपकथा सुतेर. She is the founder and Secretary General of Diplomacia. She has played an inspiring role in promoting youth leadership at various international platforms, including MUN conferences. Today's opportunity is a Today's a rare opportunity, to learn directly from these accomplished individuals. Whether it's writing speeches, drafting resolution, or engaging in diplomacy, You will gain insights that will make you stronger, delegate, and a future leader. So, Mazid Tawheed Kier Bagar, let's begin. Our first speaker for today is Ms. Vaishnavi Verma, who will guide us on how to deliver impactful ML speeches. Over to you, Vaishnavi.
Anubhav, I guess Vaishnavi has some network issues. You can continue with Bhavika. Bhavika can introduce, then Vaishnavi can take over. Oh, wait, let me give her permissions.
Thank you, Saya. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the brief introduction, Anubhav as well. Um I think I'm audible and visible clearly. Hi,
Yes, you
everyone.
are audible.
All right. So, Sai, can I know everyone in the panel? Like, if you can like, how many people do we have in the panel? Like, two or three?
Well, the people who are a part of this panel, there are four speakers, but only two of them will be speaking today who have extensive experience in MUNs. So you will be the first speaker. You will introduce uh, the what MUNs actually are, and you will throw some light upon their format. Then Bhavika will take over and elaborate upon it, explain the details, the intricacies of MUNs. You can start now.
All right, so I'll go quickly with the ROPs, or what we call that, the rules and procedures in a model United Nations, right? So if we see that model United Nations, so that's happening in New York, and there's headquarters and everything. But we call it model because we want to create such specific spaces everywhere locally as well, where people are sitting together and talking about issues that pertain the world, and are thinking towards creating some solutions to their problems. And these problems range from variety of reasons, variety of things that happens. And that's the reason, if I tell you about United Nations, it also has six different organs, depending upon one for justice, the one for the General Assembly, the Security Council, the ECOSOC, which is for the economic welfare of all over the globe. And that's how, in model United Nations as well, you have different committees. So when we say that it's a model United Nations, we mean that this is a United Nations platform where people are, in particular, when we talk about MUNs, where students, mostly students and working professionals, come together in a single room and in a single institution, and organize conferences. They have a particular agenda and they talk on the same. So, in a very layman's term, just to explain you what is MUN, it's just like you as an individual go to an MUN and you have the roles of different countries. So let's say I am going from India, so I'll be called the delegate of India, and I'll have a placard which will be written India and having an Indian flag and everything that way. So, but it also depends which committee you are representing as well. For example, many times in model United Nations, let's say the ones that happen in school and the ones like in some other places, there are citizens forum as well. So model United Nation it is, but citizens forum means that there are citizens of a nation. So you will be called a citizen, your name will be there. So not always in United Nations, as you see, if you see the real United Nations debates and somewhere you have seen a session, you will feel that there are people who are very well renowned people, and they're not representing any particular country as such, but they're just speaking on some topic which they are expert they which they have expertise in. So they're citizens forum as well. So it's not just always that you're going in an MUN and you will represent a country. You can represent yourself as well. But if we typically talk about model United Nations that we do in universities and institutions, that's just like you will be allotted a particular country's portfolio, and we call it portfolio. So what's your portfolio? Hey, I'm a delegate of France, I'm a delegate of India, I'm a delegate of USA, I'm a delegate of Norway, and that way. So that's how it goes, right? And why do we do MUNs? Basically, is particularly because, let's say, I'll just give you topic. As people mentioned that I'm doing yeah, I'll take all the questions in the end, right? So as someone mentioned that. something about the environment and climate. So I just have that thing in my mind. So right now, if we see that there is COP going on, which is Conference of Parties, right? So here parties, which is it's not a part of United Nations, like completely. It's not just UN conference, because UN has 6 organs, which I few of them I already told you, General Assembly and many such things. But the COP which is happening is coming under UNGA, which is General Assembly. General Assembly deals with everything, like every issue which is around the world, right? Ranging from food, water, and like very general issues will be there in the in the General Assembly. And then comes your Economic Council, which is ECOSOC, that particularly works on trade and such issues. And when it comes to Security Council is basically meant for urgent issues. For example, if there is a war happening in a nation, let's say there is this Ukraine and Russian crisis which is going on. So in Security Council, you might be hearing and reading newspaper that Security Council asking for the ceasefire. And in case of the Hamas and Israel conflict as well, you might be just hearing that ceasefire is what we want, two-state solution is what we want. So such issues which are of so much of importance are dealt in Security Council. So one of the major thing, in like I'll tell you very crazy thing about model United Nations and Security Council, in sense, like very interesting committee to do in whole MUN is UN Security Council, because UN Security Council topics are so much political in the sense. And the fact is, of course, they're the issues which are of grave importance. The war is going on, people are dying. That's the reason why Security Council is employed for. And that's the major crux of United Nations as well, because people think that in the whole United Nations there are 5 powerful nations which have veto power. No. So all these 5 people or 5 regions, like USA, China, Russia, right? These 5 are actually the people, are the 5 members who have veto power only in the Security Council. And that's the reason why India is also pertaining, it's asking for the special status and like permanent status in Security Council, because these nations have the power to stop any like, for example, if you see, if someone voted against, like USA voted against such motions, then there will not be ceasefire and things will be going on. That's how Security Council works. So in model United Nations, the crazy fact is that if you're, like, for example, going in an international MUN, like I went in one in recently in that's an international conference, Everest International Model United Nations, that happened in Kathmandu. And I was not in Security Council, I was in UNEP, but the other person who was in Security Council, they had their conferences and meetings going on at 3 a.m. Understanding, like their chair will just message that there is an emergency coming, we need to meet in together and get a solution to this problem. So Security Council, what I mean to say is that in real sense as well, not just in MUNs, like typically we have not seen, but if you go in big international model United Nations, where all the people are actually together in a big hotel or somewhere, it's organized so well, you will have Security Council meetings at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. What I mean to say is that the Security Council can be called at any particular point of time. It does not have a session and does not have any kind of requirement to be called for, right? It's just an emergency that it deals with. So I hope now you might have get an idea like what exactly a UN is, right? And what are we talking about by saying MUN, right? Because when I tell you about MUNs, there are rules and procedures. And which rules and procedures do we follow? We follow UN USA rules and procedures. So UNSC rules and procedures are the ones which are followed in the United Nations and worldwide. Not if I'm not, there are different forms of rules and procedures which are followed, and different formats as well in United Nations, different assemblies. But the one that we follow in India and in Delhi and most of the places you will go in, that's the same procedure, which is like which I'll define and just quickly cover for you all. So now I'll tell you how the meeting goes on. But as I told you that there are different conferences, like different committees in a model United Nations, and similarly your rules and procedure will differ as well. All right, so yes, there is this MUN structure that you can see in the slide, and there are different bodies, like we call this DISEC, we call it SOCHM, we call it ECOFIN. So DISEC and SOCOM are actually the part of UNGA, that they are the General Assembly. So they will follow all the rules and procedures of General Assembly only. And if I'm not wrong, this ECOFIN is actually should be the part of ECOSOC, but I might be wrong. But yeah, ECOSOC should be the part of. I mean, ECOFIN should be the part of ECOSOC. So depending upon these rules and procedures, we do these things. Now, if I tell you about the flow of the conference, how it starts, what are you expected to go for? So I'll tell you what you need to do before going to an MUN in the middle of it. So just listen very carefully. I'll just tell you the flow. Okay. Rishati, can you close the door? Right. So the first thing that you do in a model United Nations, let's say you are actually in UNGA, I'll tell you the different. If things differ, I'll tell you at the moment. Otherwise, you can just assume that this happens in all the committees, right? So, firstly, when you will go, you will have your seat and everything. You will sit with your placard and everything, right? And then the first thing that happens is the roll call, right? Roll call. That means they are just saying that who all are present in the in the committee today, right? So they will call China, France, USA, such thing, and then you have two things to say, right? You will say you will say present, just simple present, and other thing that you have is present and voting. These two are the choices that you have. Delegate of USA, present. Delegate of USA, again, if you don't want to be like, I'll tell you the difference between two, but you have two options. You are present or you are present and voting. Now, the difference between the two is that I'll tell you about India's case, right? Let's say if I'm the delegate of India and there is a voting thing going on in the US Ukraine war conflict, right? So I am good friends with US as well, and I'm good friends with Russia as well. I cannot vote in favor of one and I cannot vote in support of one, in opposing one, because, but we see that this policy of India, which we call the non-alignment, initially was launched by Nehru ji, but this policy has changed and India has voted in one side, and India has not abstained from the voting in UN. If you might have just heard of news and all, but that's how the process is. So it is Indian case where you might think to abstain from voting, and that's the reason that when you are asked to vote, to just ask your roll call, you will say present and not voting. If you are presenting India, right? If you're a country like India, where the both parties involved and the agenda is such that you are not in a position to vote for one and against the other, I would suggest go for present. Why? Because once you say present and voting, you cannot abstain. Listen to me very carefully. Once you say present and voting, you cannot abstain from this voting when it happens in the end. Voting happens for the agenda and the resolution that they actually plan and want to sign. So if you say present and voting, then you will be voting for that resolution in any way, right? And then you cannot abstain, if even if it is in your is not in your favor. If it's not in your favor, you just you vote against it. If it's in your favor, you vote for it. But if you say in case you say just present and you do not say voting, for example, I'm India and I just say delegate of India present, and they will note it down that you have not said present and voting, you've just said present, right? Then what happens, if you find that the resolution which is made is fine to me, is not against any one nation, like the Russia is also happy with this resolution, USA is also happy with this resolution, then why should I not vote, or why should I vote against this motion or this resolution? I can vote for the resolution because the resolution is friendly to both the parties. In that case, I can vote. So the crux is this: when you say present and voting, you cannot abstain from voting if you have a very difficult portfolio. But if you say just present, then you can vote and you can abstain as well. So it's a safer option that you go for present, right? If you are representing a country which is not so strong, which is not P5, for example, China, US, Russia will never abstain from any voting, right? They will do because their votes matter. They have the veto power. If they vote against it, it will not be passed, even if everybody passed it, right? So if you're a P5 country, always go for voting, present and voting. If you're not a P5 country and you're a very minimalist country and the very typical country which can move this side and this side also, so always go for present, because there is no harm in present, and there are no marks also for it, right? There is no mark for present and voting. For the what you say present, you say present, or you say present and voting, because in the end, if you say present, you can vote. But of course, your foreign policy matters at the and in the moment. For example, if you being India and you said present and voting, and there's something which is in the end going on against Russia, and Russia is not happy, and Russia is coming to you to not vote against them, then you are actually criticizing your own foreign policy. Like the judges who are sitting in MUNs, they see that you are actually against your own foreign policy, then your marks will be deducted. So safer option is for present. In the end, you can vote as well. Okay, so firstly you go for roll call happens, and then there is a list of speakers that is being created, and that we call general speakers list, GSL, right? And sometimes people call it in some in some committees also, like if you go in AIPPM and in many others, like the format is same. So if, for example, I tell you Model United Nations, and I also tell you Youth Parliament thing as well, because similar things are there, a bit of it changes, so you can note down. So similarly in MUNs you say present and voting. In Youth Parliament, let's say it's Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, what you can say is just like upasthit hai, depending upon the portfolio you are presenting. For example, if you're presenting Jay Shankar, right, so you will say present and voting, like present, you just say present. But if you're representing Narendra Modi, you will say Jai Hind or Ram, something something that way, right? So people, that's very fun in Indian youth parliaments, because people say what their portfolios always mention about. Next comes your general speakers list. In Indian parliaments, we call it opening statement, right? And normally we call it general speakers list. Now I'll tell you, in Model United Nations particularly, this general speakers list is never ending. Never ending in the sense, if the conference is to go for 2 days, or if the conference is to go for 3 days, because in UN conferences go on for almost, like in our institutions we hardly do it for a day or two at max. Sometimes it happens for three, but in UN it goes for a week, right? So these general speakers lists are never ending, in the sense, like if the session of a model, if UN has started or Model United Nations has started, then they will ask, they'll ask for speakers, right? People will raise their placard, they'll, I want to go first, and I'll go to second, then I'll go third, and I'll go fourth, and all that way. And they will note down the names of the delegates, like delegate of France want to go first, then second, then third, and all that way. They have written down the names. But they have a whole people's list, right? And they will in the between, like there is a general speakers list, then comes the moderated caucus, and then comes the unmoderated caucus. Do we have that part here? Yes. So the general speakers list is there, where you tell about your opening statements, and general speakers list thing is like undefined. For example, you have an agenda, you can pick up any point of the agenda and say anything about that agenda in your general speeches. But when we talk about moderated caucuses, right, there is another thing. Like the whole conference go on into major things, that I would say three basically. Firstly is GSL, which is general speakers list. Second is moderated caucuses, and the third one is unmoderated caucuses. So in moderated caucuses, what happens is, let's say it's an agenda where we are discussing about the climate change. Okay. The topic is climate change, right? The whole agenda is climate change. So in general speakers list, you can take up any part of climate change, say anything about it. You are not specific about it. Of course, if it's climate change, you can't talk about politics there. You can't talk about many other things there. But if you can relate somewhere these things to the climate change, then you can say anything in general speakers list. But when it comes to moderated caucus, we break the whole agenda in different parts, right? So what happens, like for example, if you're taking climate change, the agendas that you can frame is the air pollution, the ways and problems for mitigating air pollution. The moderated caucus might be on the ways and the ways of mitigating the water management crisis which is there. Third can be on soil pollution. Fourth can be on environmental degradation. Sixth another can be on the carbon financing. Another can be on different, like understanding the whole agenda. You have broken it in different parts, and now you want to go specific, because broader things are known to everybody. If it's known to everybody, then there is no sense of doing a Model United Nations, until unless you sit in a place and think and discuss a particular problem and coming up to a solution. So let's say the whole is climate change, the whole agenda is climate change. You can say anything. You can say the initial beginning of climate change came from this, anything you can mention. You can mention any example of the climate change issues which are going on in your area, in other area, if in your GSL. But if there is a moderated caucus, and the moderated caucus is on air pollution, right? Now they are specific. Then you have to talk about only air pollution. You have to talk about the problems in the air pollution. You have to talk about the solutions that can be that can be incorporated. So in moderated caucus, we discuss the specific thing. In general speeches or in general speakers list, you can say anything about. Even I'll tell you the best approach to go forward is that in general speeches, that's your first speech in the whole conference, and you're representing a nation, right? You're representing India. Let's say if you're representing France, you say you were representing USA, right? Then in your first general speakers list, you talk about yourself. So because as an ambassador, you are an ambassador in Model United Nations or in a conference. And ambassadorship is nothing about other than my nation this, my nation this, my nation this, my nation this, because you are an ambassador. You have gone there to represent your stances, your problems, your solutions, and influence others. That's what ambassadorship means. Like if you meet some real ambassadors in real sense, they will always say, oh, in my nation this happens, in my nation this happens. They don't even care about what happens in your nation. So basically it's not like you're in a Model United Nations, you're talking to other people also from different nations. So it's not like you have to become selfish, but in general speakers list, you have to define what's happening in your nation, what are the major advantages, and what are the major steps that you have taken to mitigate this climate change. Let's say I am USA and I've taken so many steps to do this, and I'll go on the international platform and tell them that I have done this, we have done this, and we want that similar kind of a structure can also be followed in the United Nations and all the other different nations. We are also helping other nations, for example, India, China, not China, sorry. We're helping Sri Lanka, we're helping other nations and such things, right? Do I need to take it little slow and above? Because then if I won't be able to cover everything.
If anybody has a problem with the speed, you could just text right now in the chat box, and in that sense, we could know that if it's very fast. Because
All right. Okay, I'll see the
if
reaction.
more, Vaishnavi, if more people just text it's a very fast speed, then you could just slow it out a bit.
All right. Okay. Pace is good. Fine. Because we need to cover everything. You can see the recordings again. I think recordings are available on Diplomatia's official page also, right? Okay. Guys, don't just hack it. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll slow down thoda sa. What I was saying, where I was, I'm sorry. I was on what was mentioned lastly. That happened with me last year as well. I remember.
Oh, Vaishnavi was on helping the other nations,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, you have to take others into account as well while you are actually representing your instances. So, the way to go in your GSL is to just give them what you have done and present a very good picture of your own nation in the conference. And in moderated caucuses, you can highlight the problems that your nation has, and particularly in that sphere, right? That's how it goes. So when we go about the flow again, your roll calls have happened, and then your GSL's list is being created. And let's say there are only 10 nations in the whole conference who are ready to give their GSL, who are ready to give their opening statements, right? And their names are already noted. Now, what the executive board members does is that they will take 3 speakers, or let's say 5 speakers. Firstly, they have a whole list of speakers. This will be followed by this person. I mean, France will be followed by Russia and all, depending upon how they have raised their placards. But they need to go in specific things as well in the middle. So what do? They will start with GSL. After 5 speakers, let's say, they will say any motion on the floor, right? Then they will be like any motion on the floor, and then someone might raise a placard, right? They'll raise their placard, and they'll say the delegate of France would like to move to a moderated caucus of air pollution, with particular timing being 60 seconds for each delegate, total time being, let's say, 20 minutes. Okay, which means 60 seconds, 20 minutes. How many speakers you can have? You can divide it yourself. So I'll tell you what are motions, how you raise things that way also. But what I mean to just focus right now is that while your GSL is going, it is a never ending list, in the sense that in the middle you can have your moderated caucus, you can have your unmoderated caucus, and this GSL will continue just like that. Like you have a moderated caucus on air pollution. Now, when this air pollution moderated caucus is over and all the people have spoken, then you will again move to the GSL. until and unless you plan another motion, right? And then let's say they'll take another 3 speeches or 5 speeches for the in the JSL, and then again someone will raise the motion that I want to go forward with another moderator caucus with this topic. Let's say this time water pollution, and with particular time being this, and you go onwards. So this is how the GSL is never ending, in the sense that until and unless your conference does not get over, the number of speakers and the people who are there in the list should not get over. They were like, if for example they initially just had 10 speakers in the list, you can always give your name, give a chat to them that add my name in the GSL, or you can just raise your placard and say add my name in the GSL. Otherwise, if they say, the executive board members see that the GSL is going to end because they just have one speaker left, then they will themselves ask that if they see that the conference is to move forward the next day as well, they will themselves ask that who all want to add their names to the general speakers list, then you can get that name edited. So it's like you always have an opportunity to say anything you want in an assembly of people on the agenda, not being binded by the moderated caucuses. In your GSLs, you have to talk about yourself, your nation. Now, okay. So I'll quickly go through with unmoderated caucus as well, and then I'll move to the points and motions. Fine. So I told you about 3 things, right? GSL is done, moderated caucus is done, and then comes your unmoderated caucus. So what happens in unmoderated caucus? Basically, it's nothing. In moderated caucus, you have a topic, right? And unmoderated caucus, which is topic in the sense the moderated caucus topic is a session going on under the moderation of the Speaker of the House. For example, in Lok Sabha, there is a speaker, right, who are sitting in the chair, right? Similarly, in MUNs, you have executive board. So this moderated caucus goes in front of the speaker or the executive board. When these speakers and executive board members are not in the hall, they move out. That's an unmoderated caucus. And in unmoderated caucus, it can be for various reasons. For example, you all want to come up and decide which moderated caucus are we going to discuss next. Are we going to discuss the water pollution? Are we going to discuss about the soil degradation? Are we going to discuss about the climate, air pollution and such ozone layer depletion in sense, right? So you all gather together. And decide which moderator caucus you're going next with, right? So unmoderated caucus is for that, but it's not just for that. Okay, there is another component for whole thing you're marked in Model United Nations, and that we call lobbying. Lobbying means how you make the other delegate or other nation stand with you and support your resolution or support your draft. That's what these unmoderated caucus are very useful for. For example, you're planning to introduce a new reform and you want people sign, because we will discuss the draft resolutions and all the whole documentation if we get time, and I don't think we'll get time, but we'll do a whole session for documentations in Model United Nations. But for initial stages, you just understand the flow and research it, that's much. But for example, in the end, you need to make a whole draft resolution. In those draft resolution, you're required a certain number of signatures from different nations who are sponsoring and signing your draft resolution. So for that, you need people to be with you, and that's where your unmoderated caucus comes in play. I also told you about voting. These votings are being influenced only when you are lobbying very nicely in these unmoderated caucuses. You're utilizing the time very nicely. You're not just going and having a cup of coffee and coming back to the session again, because these unmoderated caucus you also get a lot of coffee, cookies, and a lot of nashtas also happen. So depends how you're utilizing your time. People use it for networking as well. That's a better opportunity to go forward with it. So there are these 3 things. Are you bored? Sorry. All right. So there are these 3 things. Right. Now we'll go with how we actually, as a delegate, present that we want to go for an unmoderated caucus. Now we are so done listening your speeches. We want to go for a GSL now because I have something to tell about my nation, and we want to go for a moderated caucus because I have prepared for this air pollution crisis and people are discussing water. I don't know about water. I will speak on air pollution, so I want to go for a moderated caucus on air pollution. These are the things that you have to, navigate in the Model United Nations, for which we have points and motions in your hands. These are the superpowers that you have in both of your hands. So if we talk about, let's go for motions first. So motions are raised whenever you want all the people in the conference to move to something or to stop doing something. For example, motions is the one thing with which the committee begins, right? So let's say all the people are sitting together and someone has to raise the motion that the delegate of France would like the committee to go for a roll call. Sometimes the executive board do not ask for a roll call; they just take the roll call and then say someone raise a motion. They themselves say, right? They themselves say, but ideally they're not expected to say, but they say because they are the ones who have to have a greater control in the conference. So they are the ones who are doing something and doing other stuff. So they will say, they will ask someone that someone please raise a motion for the committee to begin with a simple GSL and start it. So that's how you say a motion. A motion is always said in a particular format. How you begin it, you can write it as well. You will say, let's say I'm the delegate of India, so I'll raise the placard. He will say, yes, delegate of India. Like first you raise your, they will like any motion on the floor. The executive board will say any motion on the floor. You will raise your placard, and there will be many people who will be raising your placard. Not speak until unless the person picks you up. The delegate of France, go ahead, right? If the France is picked up, then you can lower down your placard, right? It's not, and believe me when I say this, it has no marking, but it just shows that you're attentive in the whole conference, right? So let's say I'm India and I've raised my placard, then I'll go for the motion, right? So I'll pick up my placard, and how you say the motion is that the delegate of India, you say the delegate of India would like to raise the motion to the formal proceedings of the committee and move to move to the formal proceedings of the committee and move to the GSL, depending upon where you want to move. But the initial line is this only: the delegate of India would like to propose a motion for the committee to move to its formal session and establish a GSL, or establish a general speakers list. That's one thing, that's one part of what you are supposed to say. But now next thing that you also need to mention while you are actually proposing a motion is time, because you're asking everyone to move with you by this motion. Then this committee's time and everybody's time is very much important for you to take into account, and that's the reason why you also need to specify the total time and also need to specify the individual time ki har what for what minutes a particular person will be asked to speak or will have to speak, right? So I'll tell you the default timing in the sense in GSL, in general speakers list, you have 90 minutes, no, 90 seconds, okay, 90 seconds to speak for, which is 1.5 minute, right? So it's default timing. If someone, let's say in a model United Nations there are only 7 and 8 people, and the conference has to go for almost 2 to 3 days, right? Then there people can decide themselves that we want to give one particular person a 7 minutes of time, 10 minutes of time. How many minutes you want to give for? Even 7 minutes of it's a very big deal. Like I told you last day about the debates, right? That just happens in debate. The only advantage of doing debate over MUN is that you get to speak a lot. In model United Nations, you get to speak a lot. Of course, you get to speak a lot because you have 90 minutes to, I mean 90 seconds to speak once, and your GSL is never ending. You can add your name in that GSL 3 times, 4 times, 5 times for the whole conference, right? So it's not just like if you're short speaker, like you cannot speak for almost just 7 minutes continuously, just the way I was speaking last day for 55 minutes, right? So then you can go for model United Nations, right? Because there you just have to, because nobody wants to hear you that much, right? They just want you to finish very soon, and with they just want to hear particular things. So just say very particular things in those 90 seconds that you have. In moderated caucuses, the default timing is 60 seconds, which is 1 minute, and there will be a timer going on. And once you have exceeded your timing, they'll just ring the alarm, tung 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 tung. Fine. So that's how it happens. But again, I told you these can be changed, but default timings in the sense that they are always expected to be like this only: 90 seconds and 60 seconds. 90 seconds for GSL, 60 seconds for 60 seconds for moderated caucuses. So let's say you want to move to the GSL, and you're saying just do GSL for the first 30 minutes. In the after 30 minutes we'll move somewhere else. So divide 90 seconds with 30, 1.5, or somewhere around 30, 15, and you are mathematicians, you have to do maths before you speak there in the motion as well. So you need to take up a timing such way that the individual timing and the total timing that you're referring to is divisible. Okay, so do your maths yourself. Let's say if I'm saying I want to do a GSL for 30 minutes with individual speakers timing 90 seconds, you calculate and see how many speakers will be there. And that will not be your work to calculate. You just need to make sure that it's divisible. And I say that 1.5 and 30 is to some extent, yes, divisible, but I don't think it's divisible. Just do it yourself. Let's say for 20 minutes, my brain is not bringing at the moment for maths now. All right, so just make sure that you're calculating, because if you do not calculate, that the executive board need to calculate, because they will be seeing how many speakers they can have for this particular timing, right? So let's say just approximate, they can have 6 speakers in the proposed timing, right? It's 20, right? Yeah. No, it's not right. Yeah, it's 20. So in 30, okay, fine. So it's like you can have 20 speakers. So the executive board, let's say if your motion, then your motion will be put up in front of the committee to be voted for. So for example, you have set an agenda. You want to go for an GSL. If someone other is also raising his placard, the executive board's members responsibility is to ask that person to raise his motion as well and see what that person is saying, because it is possible that the person might be saying something else. But for example, it's just GSL that you are raising your motion for, then that person is also might be raising the placard for GSL only. Then what you can say, if you're also, let's say I was the delegate who raised the motion and my motion is there, someone else was also raising his placard, his motion will also be there. For example, if I was proposing the same timing and same GSL, then I can say I second Delegate of France motion. Second means I support it, right? So you can so you will second this motion. I support the first. I second the first motion. You can say I support the first motion. That's what I was to say, right? But in case I am also proposing for GSL and the other person is also proposing for GSL, but I mentioned the general speakers list. I'm saying that the delegate of France would like to raise a motion for establishing the general speakers list with particular delegate timing 90 seconds for a total timing of 30 minutes. But the other person has this idea that I want to go forward with not 90 seconds, but let's say 3 minutes per speaker. That's a very vague thing that happens. 3 minutes are never given in a model United Nations. But let's say the other person is just saying that I want to give 3 minutes to each every speaker for 30 minutes. That means in that person's motion, only 10 people can be accommodated. In my motion, only 20 people can be accommodated. So then that both our motions will be put to vote. And by default, I was the one who raised my motion firstly. So my motion will be first voted for. And if my motion is passed in first voting itself, for example, let's say the whole committee is comprising of 30 people. Okay, the whole committee has 30 people, so the simple majority lies between 16. If there are 16 votes in favor of one motion, then it will be passed. So if I get 60 votes in favor of my motion, because my motion is voted firstly, then 90 seconds will be passed. Not then other motion will not be voted for. But if let's say I got only 15 votes, then my motion is not being passed. Then his motion will be, because my motion is not passed, then his motion will also be voted upon. And if, for example, he got 16 votes in favor, then the committee timing will go for 3 minutes per speaker for 30 minutes. That means there will be 10 speakers that you want to hear in that particular point of time. Understood how this voting goes on in a thing and how this motion is there. So I told you about raising and establishing the general speakers list motion. Similarly, you can raise motion for few more things. For example, you raise points in between, I'll tell you, but I told you the differentiation, right? You raise motion when you want the whole committee to move to that particular thing. You raise points for your personal thing that I'll tell you later. But if you want the whole committee to change according to your wish, you have motions in your hand. So first one is the motion to establish a general speakers list. And then you can also raise a motion to move to a moderated caucus. Now, how you will go towards the moderated caucus is that the delegate of France would like to raise a motion to move to the moderate to close this general speakers list and move to a moderated caucus for a total time being 60 seconds for 20 minutes. Right? 60 seconds for 20 minutes. How many speakers will be having? 20, right? Right? So we'll have 20 speakers. That's math that you need to do in your brain, or before just say, or just I'll say take 90 seconds and 20 minutes. Take 90 seconds with 30 minutes. Takes 20 seconds with 60 minutes. I'm 60 seconds with 20 minutes. Fine. So that's what people do for without doing maths who have learned MUNs, right? what I was saying, yes. So if I want to go forward this motion, so how I'm raising a moderated caucus motion, right? So the delegate of France would like to suspend the formal debate and move to a moderated caucus for the topic you need to specify topic in moderate on the topic of air pollution for 20 minutes with each speaker's timing being 60 seconds. That's what you say. Understood? I'll reiterate it. You can write it because that's very important. The first timers in the Model United Nations are taught this thing only, and they go in NMUN. And at that point in time, it becomes a little, embarrassing that some people are actually so much experienced, so they know how to just say this in a one say, and you are actually struggling doing it. So you may write it. The delegate of France or delegate of India would like to raise a motion to move to to suspend the formal debate and move to a moderated caucus on the topic of air pollution for 20 minutes with each speaker time being 60 seconds. You need to specify the whole timing and the individual speaker timing. So you have raised a motion to move to a moderated caucus, and similarly you raise a motion for unmoderated caucus saying the delegate of France would like to suspend the formal debate and would move to the unmoderated caucus for almost 15 minutes. You don't need to specify individual timing in unmoderated caucus. As I told you, what is an unmoderated caucus, right? Unmoderated caucus is nothing but you're saying that executive board member, you go out, we want to talk to each other. That's a very informal way of saying that you want to go to an unmoderated caucus. Sometimes they will sit there and judge you because they have to mark you on lobbying capacity as well. So they may not go out. You can make the whole conference a machli bazaar, would be fish market, or you can make the whole conference a sabzi mandi also. It doesn't matter because they have seen that happening and people shout and do a lot of things, and that's very fun. If some people are so crazy in the Model United Nations, and you will always find such people so crazy there. So that's fun part also, and that's where the fights are also happening in Model United Nations, because earlier and initial you are actually in a very formal stage. You are mentioning everybody delegate of France, delegate, sir, ma'am, but when it comes to unmoderated caucus, you're like, listen to me first. But then you need to take care of one thing, that some executive board members are so typical in the sense that if you go very very friendly in a Model United Nations unmoderated caucus and you're calling each other, अबे सुनना यार ये कैसे करेंगे, ये करते हैं. So it's like you are still in a conference and someone is sitting in front of you and judging you. And I've seen such pathetic executive board members who have deducted my 1 mark just because I have been calling yaar. Somewhere by mistake I said bro. These words I have used, and they'll be like, this person was not formal in unmoderated caucus. So I'm going to deduct 1 mark in the lobbying itself. So that happens. There are critical things that happen to Model United Nations. Okay. I told you about model motions, right? So motion to go to and you can also raise a motion to go for lunch. You can also raise a motion to go for tea, but depending upon if you want to go for a speech, define the agenda, the particular speaker timing, and the total timing. If you want to go for a coffee, if you want to go for everybody want to go for a coffee, not just you, right? You want to suspend and move to an unmoderated caucus, you want some rest, you can raise an unmoderated caucus for, you need to just specify the whole timing, not the speaker timing, because you're not asking anybody to speak on that in that particular minute. Motion is done. Now comes your motion. Yes. So if you see below, I'll just go to the back slide. If you see below the previous slide, yeah. Motion to set the agenda, I told you. Motion to establish general speakers list, I told you. So that's the same thing. You just need to change that specific thing. Motion for moderated caucus and unmoderated, I told you. Introducing draft resolution and motion for closure of the debate. So that's very interesting. So the motion to closure of the debate goes like, the delegate of France would like to close this conference, would like to call it a day, something people say just like that. It's not very specified in the sense, but the one thing which is specified is this delegate of France would like to whenever you are raising a motion, and say whatever you want to go for. All right, let's go to points. These are your personal devices. Motion is like something you want everybody to do with you, and your motions will be voted for, your motions will be failed. Do not get decided. That's happening. That's what you all are here for, and it does not give you marks also. Now points also do not give you marks, but these are your personal tools in a Model United Nations. So very very important and very powerful tool is a point of personal privilege. Point of personal privilege is when you are not feeling fine anywhere in the, let's say you are sitting in front of an AC and you're feeling very cold. You will be like, they will be asking after every speech, the executive board will be saying, any points on the floor, any motion on the floor. if any after any speech, every speech also they are expected to ask, or after 4 to 5 speakers also they are expected to ask. But even if they do not ask, they are not very friendly and hostile, very good to you. You can always raise your placard and they'll be like, what? Then you say, point. Which point? Point of personal privilege. What happened? I'm feeling so cold here. Then he will be like, you can move this side, or please turn off the AC. Right? This may happen. Point of personal privilege you can use for. I mean, that's one thing that if you go in an MUN and the executive board member will announce in the very beginning itself that do not ask me for a personal privilege to go for washroom, because then he won't be able to accommodate everybody. But if you want to disturb the conference, and the executive board has not said this before, that do not ask me for a personal privilege to drink water and to go washroom, you always disturb that person, saying that you have not mentioned this thing. Maybe if you are the first one who is saying that I want to go for a washroom in your personal privilege, he will announce at that point of time that please do not ask me for a point of personal privilege for water and for water and okay, sorry. Okay, for water and washroom. Give me a second. All right. Next is all right. Okay, okay. So now let's go for Bhavika. I think I'm a little bit tired. I'll complete the rest part of it.
Am I audible?
Yes, Bhavika, you're audible.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Anubhav. Thank you, Ashmi, for such a elaborative talk on this. Uh, Considering that you must know what MN is, it's all the procedures and everything. Something that is very important when you participate in an MN is how you prepare for that. So very important thing, your research, how you prepare for it. For any fresher, any beginner, I would say start preparing 6 weeks before. So in any of the MENs you go, usually 6 or 7 weeks before, whatever committee you are allotted, whatever portfolio you are allotted, in the specific committees you are given a background guide for that agenda. You are shared the background guide on the agenda, wherein there are things mentioning the past procedures, the past actions, whatever till date has happened on the given specific agenda. Now, what is something that you must do is go through the background guide, and you must remember its specific points. Any international action that has been taken, any major government NGO that has been within it or associated with it, or any very big action that has been taken, you must remember it, because that is something that has to align with whatever you speak in future. So 6 weeks before, try to keep that background guide, try to go through it very thoroughly so that you know everything about the agenda. So then after 5 weeks before, you should start filling in the information, like what specific to your country is on the given agenda. You must try and research that how that specific agenda is related to your portfolio, what all actions that has happened, or what all, I would say, effects the agenda has on your specific portfolio. 4 weeks before, I would say complete your country profile. That means that you should have everything researched on the agenda, on specific to your country, how it has affected your country, or whatever the country policies that are taking place on the specific agenda. You must have your country profile ready, that you know everything, majorly everything on the agenda, and how the agenda is related to your country. Apart from that, you must also know any all the conferences that has already taken place on that specific agenda. So for example, there is any agenda related to status of women or anything on education. There might be conferences that has been taken place earlier as well, or any action that has been taken earlier as well. So you must go through it so that you know what has already happened, and you don't de-align yourself from that. You must be aligned with that even in your speeches as well. So 2-3 weeks before, you must research for your apart from your country, what all other nations have done on that. So you must know that apart from your country or the country policies that your country had made, what other countries have done on that specific agenda or then specific problem or whatever it is according to the committee. You must do that so that you know, apart from having upper hand on having the knowledge of your country, you should know that what your neighboring country is doing on that, or whatever United Nations or United Nations has done, USA has done, and any other country, you must know little background on that, so that when other portfolios are presenting their GSLs, you must know what they are speaking about. You're not completely blank, and you can form your questions that we give in chits or anything like that. You must know that. And then 1 week before, you must prepare for your opening speech. Opening speech is important because that is where when you set yourself, and that is where when you grab the attention of others as well. You must be specific to your agenda within your agenda. Like if there is an agenda on environment, and you want to speak on, as Vaishnavi said, on air or water, and you are prepared for that air, that you must make it so good that you grab the others attention, so that they would give you chits, they would ask you questions, since there is a system in amines that you pass on chits and you are marked on that. I'll come to the judging criteria also, and what all you are judged on that. So for the research, I would suggest that if you're a beginner, start 6 weeks before and go step by step. First, knowing the background guide, whatever on the agenda, we'll take the questions later. Whatever the agenda is about, whatever has happened in the past, international actions, any government organization that has been associated with it, you must know that. Then 5 weeks, start researching on the country positions, situations. If it's a crisis committee, what is the situation? Or if it's a committee where, if this is a security council, how it has been going through, you must be aware of that. 4 weeks before, complete the country profile, know where your country stands right now, or maybe 2 3 years ahead of that. You must know all the country profile. Then 2 3 weeks before, you must start with the research for the other countries as well. You can't be just assuring yourself that now I know about my countries and the agenda, I am good enough. That is never good enough. You must know what other countries are doing on that specific agenda, on that specific problem. If we go under the agenda, whatever we say, that motion that is passed in the specific agenda, you must know that. You shouldn't be blank, because that is something that you, very waste of your time. For example, if there is a motion going and you are completely not aware, I would suggest that you have your resources, mobiles, laptops are all allowed. You should be you can gather knowledge, a little knowledge, and you should speak something, because you are always marked on something that you speak. You can't be blank, because that gives others the upper hand on having the numbers from the judges. Even if you speak for 30 seconds, it is completely fine. If the bar is that you have to speak for 90 seconds, that doesn't mean that your GSL must complete at pitch 90 seconds. You can take less, of course. You cannot proceed with, you can't bar that, but you can take less time, but you must speak. That is something that you must do. You should not miss out from speaking, or you should not miss out on your GSL list. Then something that you should also aware of is, while researching your country profile, is physical geography, culture, economy, and politics and government. These are four key points that you should also be aware of. In case any of the other portfolio questions you should have that ready. That you can be geographically, you can attack them, culture or anything. You should also know the basics of the country as well. Now, going on how you are judged. First thing is, before starting your day one of the MN, you are required to submit a position paper. Now, what is a position paper? Position paper is something that you present to the judges, and you are marked on that. For example, if I am a part of executive board, and everybody marks on different criteria, but if majorly all the executive boards, if I am an executive board, I give approx 20-30% weightage to your position paper, because your position paper also determines how good you have done your research on the specific uh, agenda. And one thing you must remember, you should not chat GPT it, or you should not just copy paste it, because all of the EVs that whosoever it is, they are experienced enough to know the language, and they also know how experienced you are. They will easily catch if you are using plagiarism. You will not be marked on that, and that is something you lose marks. And position paper is the most simple thing that can gain you easily 20-30 marks, or whatever they are using as their uh, denominator. You can easily get marks on position paper, and there is a price for position paper. So people who think that position paper are literally useless, they are not useless. There are specific awards for a very good position paper, plus they get added to your total marks. So you must not chat GPT it, or use other resources that I'll just copy paste it. You must frame it in your own sense, because it is very important, and we as EBs know that. So if I am an EB, how you present a position paper is very important to me, because I'll know however you present the position paper, the EB is very good at knowing if you are a newbie, if you have attended or you have experience of 4 or 5 MBs, or if you are very good at that. They are very good at judging that. So how you write a position paper is you put up a heading. You start with committee, then the topic, then the country, and if you have school or something, if you are in the institution basis, then you write that. Then you give a topic, a background, that whatever has happened in your own words. Background guide does have mentioned that, but you should do it in your own words, your views, not as person but as your portfolio. So why am I saying this? Because apart from majorly all the committees have usually the countries as the portfolios, but a lot of regional committees have positions as the portfolio. Like in AIPPM, you have Narendra Modi and everything. Youth Parliament, they have that. So you must present your views according to that specific portfolio. If you're Narendra Modi, your views should align on how Narendra Modi's views are. You should present it in that sort, because that is very important. That gives you an upper hand on your marks as well, and that also uh, does that, and it also presents that how good you are presenting your portfolio. Then topic background, all the definition, topic, the very basic background of the agenda. Apart from that, then you give the past international action on that, whatever it has been done on the specific topic, that you must present in a very short brief. Not necessarily you write a position paper of 2-3 pages, that is not important. 1 or 2 pages are sufficient enough. You don't have to elaborate much. After international action, there is country policies. Whatever the countries have made policies, if it doesn't have, it is not necessary that you write, but if there is anything, you must write them. Then you should frame a possible solution in max to max 50 or 100 words. That is the limit. 50 or 100 words you should present a possible solution, that your portfolio feels could be a solution. It is not necessarily important that when you draft a resolution, that would be the solution that you come up with. They change according to the committees, according to the how the conference goes, but that is a possible solution of how your portfolio sees that. So that is a position paper, how you write it, and that is on something that you are judged on, and it is usually submitted usually 3-4 days before the conference. That is the time limit that when you submit it. So by that time you have researched enough on your specific agenda. Now things that you are judged on: first is your position paper, second is on your GSLs moderated, and few of the EVs also mark you on the unmoderated caucuses. Third is your chits. So there is a chit system that we say that you pass chits, like in a formal setting. You can't just ask questions to the other portfolio. So to asking questions, there are a specific thing that we use, that is a chit system. So the chits are written from two to the portfolio you want to ask the question, then from your own portfolio. And if it's a very silly question, you pass directly. And if it's a very valid question, you are questioning somebody others views on that, or maybe whatever their speech has gone through, like you mention it via EB means that it will go through the EB will read your question, and if they think that the question is valid enough and it's something that you should be marked on, then they mark according to that, according to the quality of your question you are marked. So these are the majorly three things that you are marked on. And also on the resolution, drafting a resolution, there are two entities that does that. First, the author and the committees portfolio, sorry, and the portfolios that are with the resolution, and other are the I'll come to that, but there are two entities that does that. You're also marked on your draft resolution and the resolution you submit. If you have your portfolio's name on that, you also get marks. I am not aware if all the EVs does, but at least I do. I have many people who doesn't, but you don't know how the EV will mark you. So you should be good in every aspect, and these are the major 4 or 5 aspects in which they mark you, that is the position paper, your GSL, your moderated and unmoderated caucus and speeches, and other than that is your chits. These are the major things your your executive board will mark you on that. Other than that, there are 3 things that you must remember while presenting or in a conference, or whenever you are in a conference, that you should 3 things that are hook, point, and action. So for hook, you should begin your speech by grabbing your audience attention, that they should get to know that, oh, this portfolio mentioned this, so that they can pass more chits. Not just giving questions, but replying to the questions is also important, and you are also marked on that basis also. Replying and questioning both matters. So when you grab the attention of all the portfolios, they will send you chits and you will be replying to them, so that gives you an upper hand in getting marks from the EP. And it is also good for your own portfolio. So you should make people hook to your speeches, such that they are really interested to listen you, because when they listen you, they'll be sending chits to you. Other than that is point. In your GSLs usually are very different, but in your GSLs and moderated caucuses, you should be your purpose of the point should be very clear. You have very specific time. Your purpose of the point, whichever point you're presenting, it should be clear, very good enough. You can't just roam around or beat around the bush of your the motion, but you should be clear, and you should have your points jotted down, that I want to speak this, and I'll speak only this. I won't go beat around. I won't be beating around the bush. If you get a few seconds extra, you might do that, but you don't usually get that. You don't even get to know when the 1.5 minutes gets over. That's the thing that goes through. Then there is call to action. Um, any speech goes with, I would say, if for example, if you are giving your GSL and you say that my portfolio says that we want universal free education, or we want dignity of women and equal status, so you end with saying that we call the international committees to look into that. So that creates another good point for you, that you are well aware of everything. So these are certain points that you must remember. I won't be doing much because it's already up on time. And the end thing is a resolution is very important in any of the committee, and any committees who fails to give a resolution fails, especially in GS. If the committee fails to propose a solution, it says that the committee has failed, because if a committee could not draft a resolution or could not provide a resolution, there is no point of committee happening, there is no point of the conference happening. So for a resolution, there is again a specific format in which you send your resolution to the EB. So first is you write the committee name, then you write the topic, and then there is 2 things very important. First is sponsor. Sponsor is the author of all parts of resolution, whoever proposes the resolution to the complete committee, that portfolio, plus all the other uh, all the other portfolios that agrees with the drafted resolution. So for example, I am Germany. I propose a resolution, and I am drafting a resolution, and say 5 to 6 portfolios agree with my resolution on the specific agenda. So the sponsors will have their name as well as my name. Then there are signatory. Signatories are those where a delegate or a portfolio that wishes to see the resolution before it passes through in the official, in the moderator caucus or in the official setting. He or she wishes to see the resolution, but neither does the portfolio has taken any of the doesn't have taken any of the part in the resolution, has written nothing, has absolutely no contribution to the making of the resolution, or does not agree with the resolution. Neither he's the author, neither he agrees, but he wishes to see the resolution, is a signatory. That is how these are the 2 things, and you must remember them because that's where your portfolio name goes, and that's how you are marked also. And then you write a preamble, and then there are certain phrases that you must write in your drafting resolution. That's a very long thing. And operatives, and there are several things. Basically, after those four things, you write whatever these committees has come to the end, and whatever the resolution you want to present to the EBs and the complete committee. Also, the resolution is written in the sense of a preamble. It is not just a paragraph, but it has certain points and then the sub points. That's how we write a sample. That's how we write a resolution. So that's it from my side. I think we can go on to questions now.
Bhavika, there's a question saying how participation in MN competitions as a student is good for the profile. What does it depicts? Okay, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So, MUN is basically, many people think that it is more likely a debate or something, but MUN is not just a debate. It enhances your critical thinking and research ability. It increases your confidence. It increases your personal communication or your public speaking. It increases your global awareness and knowledge. Apart when you go into interviews, not just your specific domain knowledge is important, but you should be aware of other aspects as well. So there are several things that an element enhances. Being it one would be enhancing your global awareness. You're enhancing your public speaking, enhancing your confidence. Most importantly, your confidence. Apart from that, your leadership and negotiation skills. That is very something that enhances when you do a lot of MUNs, because while drafting a resolution, your negotiation skills and your leadership really comes through when you have to persuade the complete committee to be the signatories, or be the author, or be the other than that. I'm sorry, be the sponsors to the resolution, because the resolution does not pass if it doesn't have the majority. So the more people you can persuade on your resolution, the more enhancement of your negotiation skills, manipulation skills, or leadership enhances. Apart from that, research skills enhances, because you will be researching a lot throughout the MUN, before the MUN, on the specific agenda. So it enhances your research skills a lot. So there are several benefits that you get on getting into MUNs and doing MUNs.
Okay, there's a question saying how to participate in MUNs. Can you name some platforms that actively organize MUNs? So there are actually a lot of platforms. Let's say you can find some in Unstop. Then all the MUNs organized by other IITs, IIMs, they are actually open for everyone. So you can just go and join them. Like IIT Indore is there, then IIT BHU is there. Everyone will be organizing MUNs, and it's almost open for everyone. So you can just find out which region you are belonging to, which IIM, IITs are there, and what events they are organizing, and you can just join them. Anyone having any other question, you can drop in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll be wrapping up the session. Also, everyone is just knowing about MN actually doesn't help. So if you actually go and participate somewhere, then only you will actually be thorough with the rules and procedures, how it works and all. Otherwise, it's just listening to a podcast and not actually understanding anything. So, and apart from this, committees in different committees, like they will be having different types of. Lavish, you want to say something? Okay, so like different committees have like people make slight modification. Let's say executive board of my college might make slight modifications based on the committee, okay, or maybe how the committee is proceeding. Based on that, also we might make some different modifications. So the executive board of your committee will inform you what modifications they are making, so you can go about by that, sir. Okay, so don't be fixed to the ROP that we have shared. Slight modification might be made by the executive board, so you need to understand at the beginning of the committee, everyone, like any executive board, will tell you the modifications they have made, okay, and they will go through the ROP once again for all of the students to understand, because there will be a lot of newbies. So make sure to learn that whatever they are telling and understand what modifications they have made and go by their rules, okay. So don't stick to what you already know. You need to change yourself with the rules given by the other committee members and executive boards. Bhavika, there's a question saying, do we have to focus on proving the opposite party wrong or to make sure the correct point is our?
It depends on what, majorly it depends on what the agenda is or how your party goes through. If you're not a part of majority leadership party, the basic thing that you have to do is prove them wrong. If you're a part of the major party or the leading party, what you do is you present your ideas, and not, it is not necessarily important that as a opposition you have to prove them wrong. It is not necessarily important. It depends from what the agenda is going through. It depends majorly on that. If there is a motion that is in your favor, that you would be speaking more on that rather than proving the opposition wrong. And majorly this happens in all the AIPPM or the youth parliament, majorly on the Indian committees, that is Indian parliament committees. This happens majorly in that, and not every time. It depends on the agenda as well. If there is a certain agenda that is completely against your portfolio, then you would be obviously not speaking on that, then rather proving them wrong, because you know you are wrong, you can't speak anything, then you will be proving others wrong, then no, this is not right or something like that. But it is not necessarily important. What matters is how good your speech is. That is the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter if you are proving the opposition wrong, if you are just speaking the facts. It doesn't matter, it should be good enough. That what matters is.
Okay, so I don't see any other question. If one of you would like to share your experience or something, you can share it, and by 9:30 we can wrap it up. Okay, so thank you, Prabha. So should we turn on the cameras and something, like wrap it up?
Well, thank you everyone for being a wonderful audience. This concludes the day 2 of the Tark Shastra X Diploma in India Bootcamp. And a very big thank you to all the 4 panelists for sharing your valuable insights and, showing us an insight as to how a model United Nation works. And with this, I would like to officially bring this bootcamp to a closure. Thank you, everyone.